Jordan, good to see you guys. Um, Beautiful, beautiful day today. I'm going to speak about, of course, the Gilgo case today. And, I get some people that come on to the Coffee with Cannon show that aren't familiar with how we do things here. They think it's the regular police off the cuff show, and they say, oh, you took 10 minutes to get to the topic. Well, something, then leave. Sorry to inconvenience you. This is a different format. I like to talk to my friends, my subscribers. It's a looser show. Happy Cappy, hiya. Good to see you. Waving hello, Army Mum. It's so good to see you. So something. If you're not uptight and you're gonna get all flustered by it, you're a master of your own destiny. You can go leave, go somewhere else. But we like to keep it loose during the daytime. Say hello to everybody. And Julia Wilcox, Becky Barnes, and BB2. Hi, Supreme Commander. Yes, missed yesterday. Love the replay. Thank you for so much. Amanda Landy, love hearing about the rest of your life as your topics. Thank you. Finland. Finland's in the house. Good to see Finland. My God. H. Cook lives 2 days. Low. Woohoo. Michelle Lipscomb, Dewey Weber. We love your style. Well, thank you, guys. Kim Alliston, my buddy. The great mod, the great promoter, Wild Z Pony. I love the Supreme Commander's random morning chats. Wild Z Pony, Eileen, it must be ridiculously hot in Florida. I'm here in the water. It got up to 100 degrees. Is that possible? That's crazy. I hope you're staying cool down in Florida. Sometimes the weather can be crazy, That's why I got my pool behind me, so I can just not tease anybody, because I rarely. Marilyn Minetta, good to see. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Poker 26. Whoa. Marianne Knapp, stay cool, Joe. 63 in the chat, 29 with the thumbs up. So good to see all you guys. So this evening, about 6 p.m., I hope you guys can all make it. I have a fantastic guest coming on. And he was supposed to come on last week, but he had a little problem. He couldn't make it. FBI agent, retired FBI agent, Bobby Chacon. What a FBI career he had. He's an attorney. He's got a father. His father and his brother were both retired NYPD sergeants. So we're sort of paisan. You know what I mean? Paisan in that way. We got that real relation, but. Bobby Chacon, we're going to do a deep dive into, of course, Rex Heuermann and the case and where's the case going. And I'm going to talk about it today, but tonight at 6 p.m. we're going to really address the case. And Bobby Chacon and Mike Geary's going to be on. And so if you guys are around, please don't miss it. Come on, 6 o'clock this evening. I know it's sort of dinner hour in some places, but if you're in other places in the world, it could be your sleeping hour, so you may have to set your alarm clock. So without further ado, I'm going to just slowly morph into the Gilgo Beach case and some of the things that people are talking about, what's important. The spokesperson, it seemed, Bill, that's just me and showing that pool, spilling the tea. Thomas Jordan, I could give you Joe Murray's phone number, but I'll have to do it off the air. Every night, if you watched our episodes, every night I give it on our show as a commercial. I give Joe Murray's his website. Actually, Joe at jmurray-law.com is his website, and I believe his cell phone number is listed on that. It's in my phone, so I don't have it committed to memory, and my phone is being used right now as a camera. But I will get it to you. Just check his website, Joe at jmurray-law.com. So D.A. Tierney, who has been, he's the Suffolk County District Attorney, and he's more or less been the spokesperson for the Gilgo Beach case from the time of the arrest, and he's doing a lot. He's doing a lot of press conferences. He's speaking a lot. He's talking a lot about the case, and there's so many things that we as content creators, we get challenged on all the time. And one of the most I watched Summer Duty Ron's show last night, and there was a question again about the DNA and whether or not Rex Heuermann's DNA is going to be in CODIS. And Ed Wallace, first grade detective, NYPD crime scene, teaches crime scene techniques all over the world. And he said, yes, his DNA is in CODIS now. And that flew right in the face of District Attorney Tierney, who on a press conference said, no, Rex Heuermann's DNA is not in CODIS. It only goes into CODIS if he's convicted. So that is causing, I think, a lot of confusion to people. But what they do have is they have an exemplar. What does that mean? Remember, let's do a little history of the DNA on this case. First, they lifted bottles out of their trash. Surreptitiously, an undercover FBI agent took bottles, and from those bottles, they swabbed for DNA. And they recovered female DNA. And the DNA turned out to be Rex Heuermann's wife's DNA. All right? That DNA was compared against hairs that were on the bodies. 3 hairs were on different bodies. Those 3 hairs belonged to Rex Heuermann's wife. They used mitochondrial DNA. Apparently, a technique that's been around for a while, but has been perfected now by labs where they can come up with hits much more frequently than they could do 10, 12 years ago. So again, when I speak about DNA, I'm speaking about it from a layman's perspective. I am by no means an expert, but I read a lot about it, all right? And even with all that I've read about DNA, it's still confusing. Here you have a first grade detective, a crime scene expert like Ed Wallace from Duty Ron's show, and Sergeant George Ishak, how are you? And he said that Rex Heuermann's DNA is now in CODIS. And that flew in the face of District Attorney Tierney, who said, no, it's not in CODIS, but, and here's the little addendum to this. Remember the pizza? The discarded box of pizza that Rex Heuermann threw away? The detectives followed him. They retrieved it out of the garbage pail. The pizza crust was swabbed for DNA, and lo and behold, they had Rex Heuermann's DNA. And we call that the surreptitious acquisition of someone's DNA, which is 100% legal to do. Now they have an exemplar. They take that exemplar and it goes to a lab, and the lab compares Rex Heuermann's DNA to a hair that was found on one of the Gilgo Beach bodies. And lo and behold, what happens? Bingo, they got a hit. It was his DNA on one of the hairs. So first, the 3 hairs on separate bodies, as we understand, of the victims of Melissa Bartolome, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. So they got a hit. First on the wife, and then on Rex Heuermann. So, but does that mean he's in CODIS now? There lies where the confusion is. And apparently, Ed Wallace, again, I'll spit out his credentials, first grade detective, teaches crime scene techniques all over the world, well respected. Every damn TV station is trying to get him on, and he says no all the time. He had thought that Rex Heuermann's DNA is now in CODIS, and apparently it's not until and when or if he gets convicted. So, but the DNA that they do have was obtained surreptitiously, right? And now the question is a legal one. Can they still use that exemplar all the time to compare against new cases? And I think that's a legal issue for attorneys and lawyers. Scott, good to see you, buddy. For attorneys on these cases, legal minds to work this out, There is lots of confusion with it. When we talk about DNA, we also know for CODIS there are two categories of DNA. Two categories. One is convicted offender. So everyone that is convicted for usually felonies, but certain misdemeanors, they are, their DNA goes into CODIS. All right. Now, the second category of DNA in CODIS is forensic DNA. And we hear that word forensic all the time. What does that mean? In regards to the CODIS database, what it means is crime scenes that have unidentified perpetrators, sex offenders. That crime scene is known as forensic DNA. That can be put into CODIS, swabbed, but guess what? It's not done all the time. You know why? Yes, you guessed it, money. It costs a lot of money to run all of these all these crime scenes throughout the nation, or even locally. And do police departments, criminal justice bureaus, do they have the funds to do that? I guess not. You know, when we heard last year in Memphis, Tennessee, that the mother, Eliza Fletcher, on a jog to Memphis, past the University of Memphis at 0400 in the morning, was kidnapped off the street, and in an attempted, obviously an attempted abduction and probably an attempted rape, she was murdered. And the perpetrator, who was identified within 18 hours, which was incredible, through DNA again, is identified in 18 hours, right? It turned out that he had committed a rape, about a year earlier. And the rape kit sat on a shelf and wasn't submitted till 5 or 6 months later. Had that rape kit been submitted earlier, it would have identified Eliza Fletcher's killer, murderer. So all of these things are talks to angels. That ticks me off too, you know? But who do we blame for that? Do we blame police departments? Many police departments have the procedure that a rape kit is not tested unless they have a named perpetrator. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? That the rape kit is not tested unless they have a known perpetrator. But guess what? Give them the money. Politicians cry over things like this, but they're the main cause of defunding and all this other stuff. And then when something goes bad, they'll blame someone else. It's all politicians. Politicians are the evil of our whole system, in my opinion. You know, you can disagree with me. Later, hello, Bill, love when you sing. Well, I'm trying to stay on this, just a little bit on this case before we get derailed. Yesterday we had an entire music conversation, which is great. I love it, but I want to just stay on this case a little bit because I'm sort of laying the groundwork for this evening when we have the great FBI agent on, Bobby Chacon and Mike Geary and myself, and we're going to get deep into the case and with a real recognized expert, Bobby Chacon, retired FBI agent. Dory, agree all politicians are pure evil. I don't know. I just did you see the thing? And I didn't watch the whole thing with Mitch McConnell where he froze up. There's an example of like term limits. The guy's almost a dinosaur. I mean, how long is he going to stay around? You know, I mean, these politicians, they need term limits. Again, I don't want to get all political, but it's ridiculous. These guys are dying at their desks. You know, go on vacation, go play golf, go see your grandchildren. You know. It's just crazy. Anyway, some of these questions, so we got deeply into, deeper than I wanted to get into the DNA, but you know something, DNA, the whole deoxyribonucleic acid, that's what it stands for, DNA, right? DNA is a person's genetic code, right? So very, very accurate, much more accurate than fingerprints, much more accurate than so many pieces of evidence. So many things can be used to extract DNA from. Hair, right? Semen, urine, feces, skin cells, sweat, all of these things that, and when they talk about touch DNA, like in the case in Idaho with Brian Koberger and the knife sheath on the button, they expect that to be, we've been told that that's touch DNA, potentially skin cells. Could it be potential sweat? We're told that that can transfer rather easily. So that's H. Cook, 2004, the law for capital punishment in New York State was abolished. I thought it was later than that. I thought it was 2014, but you could be right. 2004, you're telling me? Yes, New York State used to have the death penalty. It was, I guess, New York is a liberal state. Tara Stewart, PA has death penalty but never uses it. Well, it's gotten to the point where even states that have it, it's so expensive to use it because they have unending appeals for the perpetrator. 20 years, 25 years, and then they decide, no, it's the death penalty is inhuman. We're not going to give it to them, you know. So, Buttercat Paws, good to see you. Susie Bluesky, thanks. So yeah, you know, we can't. I don't want to really get. One of the things is, if we were going to talk about the death penalty. Okay, Thomas Jordan, thank you, buddy. I'm glad you got Joe Murray's phone number. Joe Murray, great guy, great supporter, police off the cuff, great defense attorney. I don't have all his information in front of me now because I'm doing coffee with Ken and backyard beverage bitching with Bill outside by the pool, and I'm glad all you guys are joining me today. It's just it's such a beautiful day today, you know. So okay, I mean, we spent a lot of DNA. You know, when people ask about it, the first way they were able to search DNA was something called RFLP. And you needed a big, much bigger sample for that technique, restriction, fragment length, polymorphism. So you needed a much larger sample. They said almost like a quarter-size sample of the DNA for that technique to be successful. And then there was something called polymerase chain reaction. They kept getting better and better at the collection and the identifying. And now what they use a lot of is short tandem repeats, and where they can take a very small amount of CC, great channel, hello from Cali, California. Well, East Coast girls are hip. I really dig those smiles they wear. And the Southern girls with the way they talk, they really knock me out down there. I don't know all the words, so I can't keep singing that song. So anyway, the short tandem repeats is Bama Chen, good to see you. They are able to take a very small amount of DNA and they're able to replicate it so as to, with a very small amount or a degraded DNA, they're able to expand it, and maybe I'm not using the right words, but they're able to make a larger sample, and that's what they're using mostly now, short tandem repeats. And of course there's mitochondrial DNA, which is DNA that comes from the maternal side of the family, that's the mother side of the family. And then of course we have this new technology called SNPs, which is being used in investigative genetic genealogy. And again, none of this stuff is that we can all understand it, or does it change, or do we, there's many parts to it. There's, of course, the big part of it. Morse code, you are a literal lyrics encyclopedia, Bill. I don't know about that. I sometimes make up my own lyrics when I don't remember them, you know. So with DNA, of course, there's the science part, which is most of it. It's the big part of it, the science part. But then there's the law part of it, the legal part of it, right? And the legal part of it, the law part of it, is changing all the time and is just as complicated to understand as the science part of it. So again, when people think that when we talk about DNA, and it's changing, it changes a lot. You know, many people think when we talk about investigative genetic genealogy, oh, go to 23andMe or Ancestry.com. Guess what? 23andMe and Ancestry.com does not allow law enforcement to use their databases for the purpose of identifying criminals. So they have another thing called GEDmatch, which allows it, and there's another one, and I can't remember the name of it, if anyone knows the second one. And if they were going to use the databases of 23andMe and Ancestry.com, they have to subpoena and get a search warrant, and sometimes, and many times, 23andMe and Ancestry.com, they fight the subpoena to not give up their databases, because when people put their DNA in those sites, they do it for purposes of building their family tree. They do it for purpose of potentially finding a lost loved one, an adoptee, trying to find their parents. So they don't sign off on that they're okay with law enforcement using the database in order to make potentially solve serial killer cases. Wendy Kraft, hello Sergeant Bill and friends, happy Thursday. Happy Thursday, that's for sure. Happy Thursday, beautiful day. It's good to be alive, right? Born to be alive, right? Tara Stewart, you say you don't work for free. How much to hear the full Mustang Sally? I don't know all the words, but you know who plays a great version of the blues player, Mustang Sally. Now, why can't I think of his name right now? Mustang Sally, you got to slow your Mustang down. Mustang Sally, you got to slow your Mustang down. All you gotta do is hang around, Sally. Ride, Sally, ride. You know, all you wanna do is ride around, Sally. Ride, Sally, ride. Who is the great blues guitar player? There's so many of them, but I'm thinking of it. I can't think of it. I just had it on the tip of my brain. Now I can't remember it. Agati, Julia Bailo, watching from Portland, Oregon. Love your casual chats, your proper ones as well. Julia, thank you so much. Gigi Knows Best. I love that one. Wilson Pickett. No, he's great too, but not him. Buddy Guy, I got it. Buddy Guy does a great version of Mustang Sally, as do a lot of great blues players, but Buddy Guy is a traditional blues player. He's has a lot, I almost said guts, lots of soul. He has a lot of soul. B.B. King, Marilyn Manetta, Mark Manetta played. So yeah, guys. All right, so let's get back to the Gilgo Beach thing, and I'm trying to lay down the foundation for this evening at 6 p.m. when we have great FBI agent Bobby Chacon coming on. Wishing Bee, GEDmatch or Family Tree DNA are the two. You're right, Wishing Bee, thank you. GEDmatch allows law enforcement to use it, and Family Tree allows law enforcement to use it. But I think they allow people that put their DNA into those systems to agree to allow law enforcement. So it's not involuntary. They let people that use those sites know that we're going to allow law enforcement to search these sites. And so yeah, thank you for that information. I remember it with GEDmatch, but I couldn't remember the other one. Are the Gilgo Beach murders connected to Atlantic City? That is a huge question. We know that Rex Heuermann frequented Atlantic City, right? We know that the biggest part of the MO, the modus operandi, was that Rex Heuermann targeted sex workers, right? And in the Atlantic City murders, the victims they have are sex workers. You know, folks, when we cover all of this stuff, of course, I cover it from a police perspective, and this is my perspective, and many don't agree with me, and that's fine. But you know something? If you don't agree, and you can disagree with me in the chat, you can challenge things I say, but if you don't agree to the point where you're going to disparage us, then maybe you should go to a different channel, because we tell you early on, this is from a police perspective, you know. So yes, are the Gilgo Beach and the Atlantic City cases connected? And really what we're asking is Rex Heuermann connected? The Gilgo Beach cases and the Atlantic City cases. Will that be easy to figure out? Will that be easy to link together? Denise Clark blocked the trolls. Well, something, I allow anyone to disagree with me, that's fine. Lisa Mitchell, thank you for the $10 super sticker. I love your singing. Thank you, Lisa. That's very nice. And I always tell people too that come on the show, maybe by accident, that this is different than Police Off the Cuff. You don't see me singing songs or hear me singing songs on Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. But this is Coffee with Cannon, Backyard Beverage, Bitchin' with Bill. And I started this show as an extra thing and as a way to just relax and talk to you guys and have a little bit of a looser show. So, all right, back to Rex Heuermann. The MO, the method of operation, the mode of operation, is it the same? Well, one of the things that we know the same is that the Atlantic City victims were also sex workers. And I even had someone once object to us using that term. And I said, if you object to that, you're in the wrong channel. You don't belong on here. If you are upset by the term sex worker, because that's an important component to this, because we are matching up patternable cases. We are matching up modus operandi. And if you're upset by that, maybe you shouldn't be following true crime, because true crime gets ugly sometimes, It at times gets very ugly. So that's one of the things that can match up these cases. Now, what are the secondary things we're going to be looking for? What was in the Gilgo Beach case, one of the things, the commonalities and the things that all the three or the four out of the four, known as the Gilgo Four, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, who is yet, Rex Heuermann is yet to be charged with that, but we're being told that it's coming down soon. He's going to be charged with that case also. They're just waiting for whatever they're waiting for, potentially physical, biological evidence to put him to connect him solidly to that case. They don't want to indict for a case like that and not be able to prove it. So that's what they're probably waiting for. And if you notice in this case, look, Rodney Harrison, who took over this case, former chief of detectives of the NYPD, former chief of department of the NYPD, took over the Suffolk County Police, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago. And 6 weeks later, they had the lead that ultimately led to the arrest of Rex Heuermann. This is the best YouTube channel out there. Bill and guests know what they're talking about. Marilyn Minetta, thank you so much. Look, flattery will get you everywhere, as they used to say, right? Maybe you have people who say flattery will get you nowhere, but I'm from a different school. Flattery will get you everywhere. Angie Carson, good to see you, Angie. Angie, when will those clouds all disappear? With no loving in our souls and no money in our coats. You can't say we're satisfied, but Angie, I still love you, baby. Everywhere I look, I see your eyes. There ain't a woman that ain't close to you. Come on, baby, dry your eyes. Rolling Stones, I pulled one out of the hat. All right, guys, I pulled one out of the hat. You get a song here and there. Carmelita's in the house. Good to see you, Carmelita. Always love your name. Good to see you in the house. Good to see you in the chat. Mystique, Rolling Stones, you guys got me on music again. Mick Jagger just turned 80 years old. Could you imagine being that fit, that healthy, and that full of life at 80 years old, that he's a rock and roll star and he's still touring the world? Unbelievable, right? I was talking about that last night with my wife. I said, look, who's really left in the Rolling Stones? Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, the drummer died, the bass player left, and I think he recently died, right? And now Ronnie Wood, who's not an original Rolling Stone, but he's the other guitarist. He's the lead guitarist. And then the rest of the musicians are like session musicians that they're not Rolling Stones. Let's put it that way. They're not original Rolling Stones, but amazing, right? And just to bring up the fact, and then I'll get back to the Gilgo case, that Mick Jagger just turned 80 years old. Unbelievable, right? Good to see you too, and listen to your singing. Music is so good for your health and soul. That's true, Carmelita. Without music, where would we be, right? All right, so let's get back to the case of the Atlantic City cases. So we know that they can connect them in a way that they're all sex workers. Now, what do we need? What connected Rex Heuermann to the Gilgo Beach 4 was the burner phones. And the fact that they had them back in 2012. They had the fact that the victims had been called by a number using a burner phone. Now, did they have the, and this is where it's not 100% clear. Cote, $10, never stop singing, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Music is medicine. Yes, you're right. Music is your doctor. Who said that? Was that the Doobie Brothers? They had a tune called that, right? Music is your doctor. Diane Krause, good to see you. I get tea. Thumbs up. Yes. So the commonality with the Gilgo 4 back in 2011, 2012 was the burner phone that made calls into that. Now, it was not 100% clear, and this was coming from Rodney Harrison, that they didn't have the triangulation to the very specific locations in Massapequa Park and in New York City. You know, if you have a phone pinging around Penn Station, if you've ever been to Penn Station, there's, at any one time there could be thousands, hundreds of thousands of people around there, right? Coming and going and in and out and everything. So does that really help you to find the perpetrator, that a burner cell phone has pinged in an area as large as the 34th Street and 7th Avenue, 34th Street and 8th Avenue area? Is that going to find them? So this all had to be fine-tuned, and I believe the cell phone technology, as well as the DNA technology and almost every other science to do with and deal with law enforcement, has improved light years since 2011, 2012. So now, could there be a commonality that the victims from Atlantic City were called utilizing a burner phone? And how great would it be that the number or numbers from the burner phones come back to Rex Heuermann? But we don't know that. We don't know that yet. Could it still be Rex Heuermann? Could he have acquired? Andalyn, thank you for the $9.99 super channel. Just love your channel. Thank you so much, guys. It's so generous of you, and I really appreciate. And as I said, I love doing Coffee with Cannon almost as much as I love doing Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. It's a different show, but I really love doing it. And I don't know if I put out the first episode of my new show on this channel, and it's called the Law and Crime Author Series. And the first one I put out was author, retired NYPD first grade detective Michael O'Keefe, and we put that out the other night. And I have Barbara Butcher. The interview is completed, and I think it may come out this Tuesday night. Barbara Butcher has the book out called What the Dead Know. Brilliant book. I read the book in 3 days. I know a lot of you guys in the chat right now have the book, either started reading it, some of you have completed reading it, and I'm not just speaking because I love Barbara. It's an awesome, awesome book. Jeannie Nash, good to see you. I read the book in 3 days. So you haven't seen the last of Barbara Butcher. She's a super talented lady. She's a super complicated lady. I mean, before I even started having her on my podcast, I knew her from when I was on the NYPD as as a medical legal investigator, a death investigator. Patty DeAngelis, thank you so much for the $9.99 super sticker. You guys are so generous today. Really appreciate it. And thank you for coming by. 201 people in the chat, 118 with the thumbs up. Beautiful day. You know, oh guys, I forgot, I'm going out to Montauk this weekend. And I haven't been to Montauk in a while now. So Montauk is a beautiful, beautiful place. It's the tip of Long Island for you guys that aren't from around here. And I'm going to a place in Amagansett, which is the town before Montauk. I mean, I'm a Long Island boy. I grew up on Long Island. I love Montauk. And I used to think Montauk was the #1 fishing place in the world. That was until I went to Isla Morada in the Florida Keys. And I think, well, I won't drive by Gilgo. I won't be taking that way. I would be taking a different way that's more direct. I actually could go that way, drive by Gilgo. I think my wife would say, "You're not doing that," you know. And but I could. Dutyman gave us a great tour of Gilgo the other night. There's some other YouTube channel, a guy named Mooney. He goes traveling around past the crime scenes, and he did a show on that the other. I didn't watch the show, but I know he does that from other shows that I watch. All right, let's get back to the case. One of the big questions, even regarding the Gilgo Beach case, is: are there more than one serial killer involved in the Lisk case, Long Island serial killer case? Because right now, the only thing that they're charging Rex Heuermann with is what has been known as the Gilgo 4. And that, of course, is Maureen Brainerd Barnes, he hasn't been charged with that yet, Melissa Bartolome, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. So they're known as the Gilgo 4. And that's who right now Rex Heuermann is being charged with. But there are 6 more bodies that they don't know. Shannon Gilbert. There's a lot of people that don't believe Rex Heuermann was involved in that. I mean, that's the case that really started the ball rolling in all of this. But she was on a 911 call, being chased, and then she disappeared. Schmitty, good to see you. Great to see you. So they don't know, and I don't believe that. Renee Whipple, I believe Shannon is connected. Look, it could be, but there's many folks that don't believe it is. Can we connect those other, and you know what, the other commonality was, it's something I spoke about, is a signature. And we spoke about modus operandi, and then we spoke about signature. And one of the signature things in regards to Rex Heuermann was the use of camouflage burlap bags. And people have drawn a comparison or drawn the connection to the fact that Rex Heuermann is or was a duck hunter, and that they would use those camouflage burlap bags for that purpose. So that became a signature of Rex Heuermann, because the bodies were wrapped up or tied up with the or contained inside these camouflage burlap bags. Have those burlap bags been seen on any other cases? Are they present? Oak Island Morky, good to see you. Marianne Knapp, you have that right. CCCC. Andelin, hyoid bone was, yes, well, that was according to Dr. Michael Baden, who was the former New York City medical examiner long time ago. The hyoid bone is a bone in the neck that is not obviously the strongest bone, and during strangulation, that is one of the signs when they look for the sign of strangulation in an autopsy. If the hyoid bone is broken, that is one of the signs of it. Apparently, Dr. Michael Baden, I don't know if he did the first autopsy on Shannon Gilbert, but he did an additional one, and he found that the hyoid bone was broken, which indicated to him that the cause of death was asphyxiation. So again, let's get back to whether or not Shannon Gilbert is in fact connected to Rex Heuermann. This is what the Gilgo Beach Task Force will be working on in the next months, years, to determine whether or not he's connected to these cases. You folks are talking about in the chat, what did they recover in his home? When they said the home was very cluttered, to me that almost says they were like hoarders, or he was a hoarder, you know. They were probably being very kind when they used the term cluttered. Look at the front, look at the house from the exterior. It looked horrible. That house stood out. That house stood out like a black eye, right, to the neighborhood, you know, or an eyesore, whatever you want to talk about. Is that part of his personality? That, you know, he had this outward life of owning his own business in Manhattan. An architect. You can't be a dummy and become an architect to be a licensed architect. You got to be pretty damn smart. There's a lot of mathematics in that profession. There's a lot of by the book stuff. But then when you looked at that, so he's designing other buildings and doing work on buildings in Manhattan, yet his own house looks like something out of a horror movie, you know. And I'm sorry to be so, no, I'm really not sorry to be so blunt. I think that's what I should be, blunt, and not try to be politically correct. His house looked like it was a garbage pile, really, to be perfectly blunt, you know. So was that part of this personality? You know, people didn't like when we said that the family, maybe they didn't know their father, their husband, was a serial killer. But he obviously had to show signs of his personality that was inherent to the family, you know. Was he short with them? Was he abusive to them? I would almost guarantee he was psychologically abusive. If he was not physically abusive, he was almost 100% psychologically abusive, right? Can you lead that double life and be, you know, father knows best? I don't believe so, you know. CC, his wife looks so beat up, good Lord. Well, CC, she could be beat up emotionally, you know, living with that guy. But, you know, complicit. Could we use that word? Could we use that they were complicit? They lived in that house. They lived in that eyesore of a house. If that house was like a hoarder house, or as the police said, it was cluttered, which in police vernacular, that means it was a dump, all right? What does that say about the family? Is that, again, and I'm going to take heat for this, but I don't care because I'm looking into what it means. They just arrested a serial killer, all right? And again, he's arrested. He's innocent until proven guilty. He's the alleged, but they have a hell of a lot of evidence for this alleged Gilgo Beach serial killer, all right? So what will be Rex Heuermann's defense? Like yesterday when I told you that Brian Kohberger from the Idaho case, they're going to try to use an alibi that he wasn't even there. I mean, come on. Which means to prove that they may have to get someone that's going to say he was with me, or someone, I saw him at this location, you know. Will the defense actually use that as a defense? There is also financial abuse. Husband controlled the dollars plus wife needs insurance. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that can be abusive if the husband controls the checks, controls the money, controls the whole family. So, but that is a sign. That is an abusive personality, psychological sign that there was abuse in that family, and maybe that they were controlled, and maybe the control came to the point where they didn't recognize his aberrant behavior because they were controlled by him, abused by him. These are all, look, again, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm looking into this case like, how was it possible? Subscription was LMN, it will show. Thanks, Agati, for clarifying. Marilyn, I'm sure they've questioned his wife already. I don't think she knew what was going on. Well, that was the Rodney Harrison, the Suffolk County Police Commissioner, felt that the family didn't know anything about it. But I'm not saying they outwardly knew anything, but were they somewhat coerced into this horrific behavior, you know? That they didn't recognize that his behavior was so off the wall. Is that a possibility? It's like, do you guys remember the case of Joel Steinberg and Hedda Nussbaum? And he killed little Lisa Steinberg, and she was controlled by Joel Steinberg. Really, she was beaten all the time. And they didn't charge her. When they charged Joel Steinberg with murder, she wasn't charged. She was a witness. And back then I felt that she should have been charged. But now when I look at it now and I see Lisa Mitchell, welcome to the bucket. Welcome to the YouTube Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories family. Lisa, welcome aboard. Thank you. Diane Cusimano, about not easy for him to let go of family possessions or his own that he would, you know, I couldn't read it that fast, but so is it the possibility that he controlled them and he didn't notice things? Just as I mentioned the Lisa Steinberg case and Hedda Nussbaum and Joel Steinberg a long time ago. In fact, a good friend of ours that used to come on this show, Irma Rivera, was one of the detectives that worked that case. Linda, how are you, Linda? So was it, Schmitty, I have another bucket buddy, that's for sure. So is it possible that they just didn't recognize things because they were so controlled? They were controlled by this guy, this man, this scary man, you know. So is that a possibility? Tara Stewart, yes, Lisa Steinberg's case was huge. Yeah, it was basically at the time listed as the case that sort of changed domestic abuse, domestic violence all over. Johnny B from the Bronx, thank you, buddy. Great show. It changed domestic violence as was investigated and known throughout the country, that case. Because here was this man abusing his family, murdered his young daughter who was illegally adopted. All of that came to light when he went to trial. So none of these things, you know, and I didn't get even through my whole list on this case. We'll have to do it. We'll have to do it tonight with FBI agent, retired FBI agent Bobby Chacon. I wanted to talk about how the home search was completed and all of the items that they have, all the things that they listed in that warrant that they collected. How are they now going to compare it to the case? How are they going to collect forensic evidence off it? Didn't even get a chance to get to the Chevy Avalanche. And Ed Wallace, who was on Duty Run show last night, thinks that there's still a potentiality after 12 or 13 years to collect forensic evidence out of that truck, out of that Chevy Avalanche, that 2002 Chevy Avalanche that Rex Heuermann had given to his brother and was down in South Carolina. Guys, it's 49 minutes and 40 seconds. You know, I say sayonara at 50 minutes. I want to thank everyone for coming by today. 6 o'clock tonight, Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories with retired FBI agent Bobby Chacon and Professor Mike Geary. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for coming by.